What's up? My name is Casey, and this is the Oracle Podcast. Approach Seeker and Ask, for I have episodes 5 and 6 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians for you today. Episode 5 is entitled, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers. And for me personally, this episode is probably, I'd say it's a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good episode. It has some of the funniest moments of the whole series in it. The scene where Ares pulls up on his motorcycle and it's shot from behind him, and our three questers keep popping up from behind the concrete guardrail that they're sitting behind is hilarious. It's some of the funniest parts of the entire series. Ares, this whole episode is hilarious. I think that he was brilliantly cast and brilliantly acted. He is just one of my all-time favorite parts of this episode. I think that the Annabeth seeing the fates is an interesting change, especially with what it ends up being and what it ends up meaning. I think that is a very interesting way to talk about that, because Annabeth has a better relationship to what is going on with this string than Percy does, honestly. But I don't want to get too much into the spoilers for you guys who haven't seen or read the books, because spoiler alert, but Percy does not die in season 1 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. He lives through, so the string, at least for now, is not about him. And so it's kind of this whole ongoing question through the first few books is what does that cutting of the string mean? And it kind of gets forgotten for a couple books and then brought back up later, but it's not that huge of a plot point. It's a plot point in the books more than the series at this point, but I think that I feel like it is kind of lesser evil in this case. We do get a scene of Gabe in this episode, and he is talking on social media about how Percy might have kidnapped his wife and was responsible for the arch. Oh, the arch. One of the very first shots of this episode is Percy coming out of the water and emerging from the water, and then it shows the arch with flames coming up out of it. That is one of my all-time favorite scenes from from this whole show. I mean, honestly, it's so good. It is beautiful. You see the arch, you see the smoke coming out of it. It just, there's something about it. It's beautiful. We also get Percy and Annabeth going on a quest to what turns out to be Hephaestus's waterland, and they go on the thrilling ride of the Tunnel of Love. And it's actually I don't know. There are parts of it that I like, parts of it that I don't. My biggest complaint with this particular part is that there aren't mechanical spiders, and that becomes more prevalent in later things, but I don't think it's a spoiler to tell you that in Greek mythology, Aphrodite is Athena is very antagonistic from a character called Arachnis. She's a spider lady. Beat Athena she says that she beat Athena in a weaving contest, and it's this whole ongoing thing. But because of her pride and her arrogance, Athena turned her into the mother of all spiders. And so since then, there has been this ongoing feud between spiders and the daughters of Aphrodite and the sons of Aphrodite. And it's this whole ongoing thing about how the children of Aphrodite are tormented by spiders, and they end up often getting attacked, and it's a whole plotline in a later book, which I hope that we get to see. But if we do get to see it, then it will be less cool because it didn't get set up in this very first book, which is one of my favorite things that Rick Riordan does, is because he's so faithful to the mythology, because he's so faithful to these myths, he is able to interweave those things kind of seamlessly, because he doesn't have to make up new mythology, or he doesn't have to stay true to some external canon. He has the canon of the Greek mythology all on its own, and so if he just stays faithful to that, then it makes it all internally consistent. I'm not saying that it's not a brilliant work on his parts to connect things back to each other, but the themes and the stories are already there, so it's easy to attach them to each other when you already have that kind of scaffolding put up. Annabeth and Percy end up retrieving Ares' shield and and Aphrodite's scarf from the Waterland, and they return them to Ares, and he in turn gives them a passage to Las Vegas and a backpack full of provisions and goods. In the show, I think this is an interesting change. However, while Percy and Annabeth are going on their quest, Rover is talking to Ares, and through their conversation, Rover begins to suspect that Clarice is the one who has stolen the Master Bolt. And so that kind of becomes this dangling thread that goes for a little while further into the season, and it kind of points you in this certain direction. So I think that is a cool change. I think that it helps out some of the other stuff, and it helps out the twist later in the series. But I actually really like that. I think that the more that I think about it, the more that I like it. I think that that is a fun kind of misdirect, and it kind of foreshadows several things, but it foreshadows that there is probably a traitor at camp, like someone at camp helped, or someone at camp likely stole the bolt. And it also foreshadows that, spoilers, Ares was partly responsible for it as well, and is partly responsible for what's going on now. And that's kind of the end of the episode. And they escape the Waterland trap, and Annabeth pleads to the gods about how the gods' petty wars shouldn't concern their kids. Honestly, that's the whole plot of the stories and all of Greek mythology, is the petty wars of the gods affecting mortals, and how that's just kind of the lot that these kids are cast. So I really did not like that change. I liked them escaping by their own merit and their own ability instead of having to plead for help. But that's just me. And then that's pretty much the end of the episode. We go to episode 6. We take a zebra to Vegas. And this episode is one of the worst. I think that they could have cut so much of this episode, or they could have trimmed some of the last episode and trimmed them together, and then maybe given so the pacing in this show is bad. It's notoriously bad. And I think that this episode is an egregious part of it. I like that they spent so much time on such a big part of the book, but I also think that this bloats this middle section of the series and makes it slow down and fall to a grinding halt, which is kind of the point. It's kind of part of it, but it also brings your storytelling to a halt, because for our main characters, this should feel really fast. It should feel like it's going by in a flash, but this episode just stalls out and takes forever. They meet Hermes, who is played by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think he should have played Apollo, honestly. If I'm being completely honest, I think that man is already a god of poetry. He should have played the god of songwriting and poetry, but that's just me, we might be missing out on the opportunity to get Lin-Manuel Miranda to rap on a Percy Jackson show. So that's might be something that we're missing out by not having him play Apollo. But, I'm sure that they have something else in mind for it. And while Lin-Manuel Miranda is hot, I do not think that he is the hot level that they're looking for Apollo, who's supposed to be this incredibly attractive guy. Attractive enough to make legendary, non-boy-loving Thalia Grace say, damn, he's hot. So, that's a whole thing. But I do think that I liked Lin-Manuel Miranda's. I like his role in the story here. I like that I like his portrayal. I don't like that he's here. I think that is just bloating and taking up more time that should have been allocated towards the earlier episodes. I think they could have combined these 2 episodes into one, make it all roll on a little bit faster. And maybe I would have complained that this middle section was a little bit too fast-paced, but I really don't think so. I think that this middle part of the quest needed more setup. And so I feel like if you even took half more of an episode and spent more time setting up your setting up that the lightning bolt had been stolen, set up that there had been storms and stuff going on, set up any of the stuff that leads up and makes the beginning of the book so great and hooks you in the book so great. If they had spent a little bit more time setting it up then they could have had a much better result coming now. I think that it might have had a little bit better reception. I would have liked it at least a little bit better because they would have set up things a little bit better, and so the payoffs would have been a little bit richer. Again, that's just me. I think that the setup in this show is especially poor. I think that some of the payoffs are good. I still feel like the last couple episodes are really good, but I do feel like the setup is just not there. And so if they would have set it up a little bit better, it would have been a little bit better. But they do some good stuff, especially in these 2 episodes of setting up stuff in the future. But again, I feel like it's a little bit too little too late. And at this point, the setup drags your action and your pacing down. Like, it drags it to a complete halt at this point when it was just starting to build. Like, we were just starting to get some momentum. And this show chops itself off at the knees every time that it gets some fun momentum built. I think that they needed to, like, in my ideal world, you do episode 1, Percy just barely gets to camp. You don't even hardly see camp, but we cut out a little bit of him and his mom at Montauk, and we add in some more scenes, maybe a scene before they're at the museum or something like that, talking about how the weather has been bad since Christmas and how yada yada yada, tsunamis, airplanes going down, that whole sort of thing. And then we sprinkle in a little bit more later, and then there's this kind of undertone while Percy's at camp in the second episode, and we end that episode like we add in a scene or two about how there's whispers that the gods are fighting, there's whispers that Zeus is mad, yada yada yada, and then we sprinkle in little hints and stuff leading up to the end of episode 2 when Percy is claimed by Poseidon, and then we end the episode on that epic scene there. We have all the momentum, and then roll into the next episode where Percy has all that glory, has all that, but we start the next episode with him feeling like he has all this momentum, all this power, and he's feeling kind of conflicted about that. And then we add in the pressure of all this stuff that we've already set up. Here's the payoff for it. The lightning bolt has been stolen, and Zeus is now especially blaming you for it because you are a son of Poseidon and you are a child of the big 3, and so you are in danger, and you either A, need to go on this quest, or B, need to die. And so I really like how they do it in the book, where Dionysus is like, hey, I'm going to Olympus, there's an emergency meeting. If I come back, if you're still here when I come back, I'm turning you into a dolphin. And I think that is such a hilarious scene in the books that shows Mr. D's character and the comedy that is possible in Mr. D's character, but like in the show, he's like, you need to go on this quest. You need to accept responsibility. But it just falls so flat because it's coming from Dionysus. Like, he is supposed to be this comedy relief, especially at this point in the series. He's not supposed to be this character who's pushing him on this journey. That is supposed to be Chiron. Chiron is supposed to be the one who is trying to get him to go on this hero's journey. Dionysus is not that figure yet. He eventually becomes it, especially for Apollo in the later books. But at this point, he is not that character. He is not that figure. So overall, episode 2 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians is one of the worst episodes. I think that it is probably close to episode 2 for being just as bad. Probably like a 6 out of 10, just because it's like, I would give it a lower score, but it's still adapting some of my favorite material from my favorite book series of all time. So I'm going to have a hard time rating it any lower than that. It's just too, like, the source material is too good. And a lot of people believe that Percy Jackson and Lightning Thief is the worst of the series. So I am so excited for season 2 coming out on December 10th. We are just under a month away from that, so I'm just so hyped about it. It is going to be such a fun episode, or such a fun time getting to watch new episodes of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, seeing the characters that I love continue to grow up and continue to go on the quests that I've seen. The trailers look so sweet for season 2. They look so good. Like Clarice looks so good. Percy looks like he's grown up a little bit, which is perfect. I mean, that's what starts to happen in the books as well. Grover, haven't seen Grover in a wedding dress, and I'm really scared that they're not going to do that. If they don't do that, I might actually throw a fit. I might crash out on here. Not even gonna. Yeah. Super not excited if they don't do that, but I'm crossing my finger. That might be a make or break for the show, honestly. If they have Grover in a wedding dress, I'm all in. I'm ready. But if they don't, I might be all out. That's just how it might be. And now I'm going to rank the 12 Olympian gods based on how much I like them personally. At number 12, we have the worst dad on Olympus. Well, maybe that's not true, especially after Kronos left, but it is Zeus. Zeus and Hera make up my bottom 2. At number 10, we probably have Hephaestus. He has a tragic backstory, but that's most of all what he has going on with him. After Hephaestus, we have Demeter, probably. She is a sweet goddess of agriculture, but honestly, she doesn't get that much screen time, especially in the books, so she is going down this low. Next up, we have Aphrodite and her lover, Ares. They just don't get that much screen time in the books, but personally, the moment where Percy thinks that Aphrodite looks like Annabeth is one of my favorite Persebeth moments ever. Up next, we are probably going to have to go with Artemis. She is one of my favorite moments in the entire series, is when the Hunters of Artemis arrive. Literally anywhere. They are the ex machina, literally, for a reason, and they are sweet. They're some of the coolest characters. Zoe Nightshade, withholding, because I hate Zoe Nightshade for the first part of the book. I like her by the end, but she is so annoying, especially at the beginning. And I think she's kind of meant to be, but that's besides the point. Up next, we are going to have probably going to go with Hermes next. He is a bad dad, so he gets put down this low. Him and Dionysus are just kind of down here, just because Hermes, because he's a bad dad, and he could have done a lot better by the way of Luke and all of that, but he was trying his best and he was under a lot of godly limitations, but I just still think he could have done a lot better. And Dionysus, because we don't see that much of him, we don't get to be around him all that much, but whenever we're around him, he's hilarious, but he is, unfortunately, until Trials of Apollo, he's mostly played off for comedic effect, so he doesn't get that much serious time. And then we are up to our top 3. At number 3, we have Athena. Her role in the Mark of Athena and the Athena Parthenos is incredible. Some of my favorite stories come out of Rhaena bringing the statue back and Annabeth going to rescue the statue. It's just some of my favorite stories of all time, especially with Arachnis, whatever her name is. She is such a cool character, so I really like that. And then at number 2, we have the Earthshaker, the Stormbringer, Poseidon. His titles alone make him the coolest god on this list, besides our number 1 choice, Apollo. Apollo is just such a fun character to follow throughout the Trials of Apollo. If the Trials of Apollo did not exist, he would be way further down this list, but honestly, he is such a fun character to follow. Lester Papadopoulos is hilarious. All of his haikus are phenomenal, and I will not hear otherwise. I love the Trials of Apollo. I think that it's the best thing that Rick Riordan has ever written, period. And I think that is why he is at the top of my 12 Olympians list. But what do you think? How do you guys have the Olympians ranked? Please let me know down in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been the Oracle Podcast, and that has been your prophecy.